After working with thousands of practices, we have seen a direct correlation of the success of a practice owner can't really expand past the success of their team. So building and training a team becomes the most important thing that you can be doing in the direct success with your patients. And in this video, I'm going to give you my training framework that is masterful in helping your team become experts at their craft. Most practices are so focused on patient treatment that they forget that there's all these other things that they need to do in order to improve that patient treatment, the very thing that is keeping them busy. In fact, there's two things that we measure in your team, and that is skill set and that is bandwidth. How much bandwidth does a team member actually have? Meaning they're staying busy. In fact, some of them are coming to you or acting like they're so busy that they don't want more on their plate. And that's actually a very dangerous place for a team member to be, because we can't give them more. We can't grow the practice. In fact, the energy that they're sending out is actually pushing patients away that we could be potentially attracting to the practice. So watching a team member's bandwidth becomes critical in your leadership and managing your team. The other piece that we look at is skill set, and what we have found over the years of training thousands of team members is that the better we get their skill set, the more we open bandwidth. It's kind of like when I was a kid and I got hired onto a construction crew and I was learning how to frame a house. And in the early days, I was terrible. In fact, they kept having to come over to the area I was framing and pull it apart and redo it and remeasure and put up the square, and it was off, and it was extremely frustrating and tedious, because if we didn't get the framing done right, then everything else around it was not going to end up in a good place for the rest of the house. But the more I did it and the more expert I became at it, and I didn't have to have somebody come over and check my work as often because they gained confidence in me. I was putting out the quality of work, and that quality not only improved, but my speed at which I produced the quality improved. Pretty soon, when I was looking at the amount of work that I had to accomplish in a day, wasn't overwhelming anymore. It actually became pretty easy. I wasn't hitting my lunch break and looking back at the morning thinking, how am I ever going to get the rest of the work done for the day by dinner time at the rate that I'm going? Well, pretty soon we'd get to lunch, we're like, hey, we're ahead of schedule. And then pretty soon it was getting off at 3 o'clock and we'd go golfing. And that's what efficiency does for you. So when we're measuring this bandwidth versus skill set, you can increase bandwidth in a team member by increasing skill. So this training rhythm has to become regular within the practice. In fact, it became a religious experience for us in the practice to make sure it happened once a week. And that training time was precious. And I'm going to give you a framework that you can use within your practice with your team to make sure that the components of the practice are being trained on a regular basis to master the expertise that you need to deliver the patient experience that you're trying to create for your team. Well, think about this for a second. You have a 4-week month. And in that month, we're going to cycle through 4 topics. Now, if you have BlueIQ, the best way to identify your training needs is to use the diagnostic tools inside of BlueIQ that will tell you exactly what you should be training on and the skill sets needed to improve those metrics and KPIs within the system of your practice. But if you're not managing your practice by numbers, which you should, then use this simple framework. And that is week 1, we're going to start with marketing. Remember, every team member within the practice is on the marketing team. They're in the marketing system because we're communicating. Marketing is just communicating, whether it's within the walls of your practice or outside the walls of your practice. So that week 1, we're very focused on marketing. What are our marketing messages for the month? What are we trying to communicate? What are our offers that we have out in the world? And what are our KPIs around marketing that we're trying to improve? And then what are the skills that we can tap into that if we learned as a team, we would see our marketing KPIs improve improve. Week 2 then goes to case acceptance. Now, again, when I was early on in practice, I thought case acceptance was all about me. It was all about me as the doctor, stepping in and connecting with a patient and diagnosing them properly and presenting a care plan. And believe me, all those things are important. But as we got more expert at the patient experience, the patient qualification, setting the patient up for the exam through the consult, pretty soon I wasn't involved in very many of those pieces. We automated many of those through video. We increased our bandwidth by bringing in team members who could actually do part of this process for me. And then I would step in for a 10 to 15 minute experience and was creating a better outcome than when I was doing it all myself. And that is because we taught everybody to be involved in the conversion of a patient, taking a new patient and converting them into the established patient systems of the practice. And that is amazing when every team member knows their role in creating that experience. Week 3 then turns to the front desk systems. Now again, I am a big believer that you should have a team member who is an expert at their role and they know their roles and their measurements within that practice. But I'm also a big believer in cross-training. So as we're doing this on this weekly rhythm, we're now training at the systems of the front desk. How do we answer phones? How do we answer the questions of how much do you charge for this particular procedure? Do you accept this particular insurance? There are all these questions that you really want to make sure that every team member can rattle off very easily. What is the patient experience that you're creating? How long does it take to go through your patient experience? What type of patients are we trying to attract within the practice? These are the things within your front desk systems that every team member needs to know and be good at. You know, of course you have one master, but it's that master that is training the other team members on how to do this. The 4th week then is we're actually training on delivering our services. Now again, I don't care if these are team members in the back office or sitting at the front desk, I still want them to go through the patient experience. I want them to understand each phase of care. I want them to understand the stations that a patient goes through and what they're experiencing at that station. Because the better they understand that, the better they can actually answer the questions on the phone calls. The better they are at that, the more intentional they can get about reactivation and about handling canceled appointments and missed appointments at the front desk to ensure that patients are going through the care that they signed up for and that they agreed to, that they need in order to reach their health goals. You see, it's that regular rhythm of marketing, exam and case acceptance, front desk, and treatment. The last tip I want to give you on this is probably the most important, and that is that I want the team member that's responsible for that role to do the training. Why? Well, it's because when we teach things, when we're asked to teach things, we actually become our greatest student. And so every team member, may resist that. They may not be real excited to get up and train, but that's okay. You want to actually have that as part of your team culture within your practice. And we want to support them, cheer them on. They may not be great at this in the beginning. They may miss things. They may even train things a little off. But work with them and create that team approach within the practice, because if you do, you will see your team grow into a team of rock stars, a team that is amazing at delivering this patient experience. Now, if you need resources on helping them become experts in these systems, we have the most unbelievable growth challenge. It's a 30-day growth challenge with short videos and training guides that they can go through to help them in all aspects of these 4 categories within your practice. So click the link below and sign up for this growth challenge. It could be the very thing that transforms your team into that team of rock stars you've been hoping that they would become.